This is Colin O'Keefe with another episode of LXBN TV. Joining me today is Edward Pohl, owner of LawBiz Management and author of the LawBizBlog. He is also author of the upcoming book, Life After Law, on why aging baby boomer lawyers should consider planning for their next career. Ed, just how much is the legal industry transitioning right now? Are we seeing a major changing of the guard as older lawyers depart the profession?
Well, the profession is changing caused by a number of things. One is the technology that we're being faced with. Richard Susskind in his book talks about four major elements focusing on changing in the profession, one of which is technology. Technology is just revolutionizing everything. And in the legal community, we're probably late to the table, but we're being impacted right now as never before. The other thing that's impacting us, and I think of even greater proportions, is the fact that by the year 2020, according to one study, we're going to have 400,000 lawyers retiring. You just think about that. All the baby boomers, they're coming of age now. And the recent financial crises, yes, probably delayed the decisions by some to retire, but at some point, these lawyers are going to have to retire, either because of illness or disability or just plain fatigue. They're going to retire. And how they retire is really one of the focuses of my book, Life After Law, because what I'm suggesting is you ought to retire, you ought to leave the practice of law on your own terms. You ought to plan for it. Now, the problem with that, having said you ought to plan for it, is that I've also said in my very first work, 15 books ago, The Attorney and Law Firm Guide to the Business of Law, that planning is essential for your success. And probably 95% or more of lawyers still don't have a plan in place, particularly a written plan on how to run their law practice. So if they don't have a plan in place on how to run their practice now, what gives us cause to believe that they're going to plan their retirement? And one of the things that I found is that the most feared word in the entire English language is the word retirement. And the reason for that is most of us think that retirement means we're tired, we're sitting down, and the next step for us is to die. And I like the phrase by one insurance company that says, what are you going to do for the next 6,000 days? What they're saying is that from the day we retire to the day of our death is 6,000 days. Think about that. That's 20 years. That's a whole other career. So what are you going to do in that next 20 years that's going to satisfy you, that's going to keep you alive and innovative and as a contributor to our society? And that's what I'm talking about.
So what advice then would you have for these older lawyers who may be looking for a potential career after law? What advice do you have for these guys?
Well, one of the things that I suggest is, think about what you want to do. And think about what you want to do, not the day before you want to stop, but a year or two or three before at the very earliest. Some folks really have an understanding that they're looking into the future and that the finish line is not the closing of the law practice. That's just one metric. That's just one benchmark. There is much more to go on beside the practice of law. What do you want to do? And in my case, for example, it's riding my bike. I'm an avid cyclist. I want to find out more of what I can do. And I'm doing that while I'm working. So, for example, this coming February, I'm going to spend 3 weeks in the cycling camp, 2 weeks in camp and 1 week on my own. And that's going to be a precursor to what I'm going to do, later on. Traveling is another thing that many lawyers like to do. And my book, Selling Your Law Practice, The Profitable Exit Strategy, is still the seminal work in the field. There's no reason why you have to sell your law practice and then immediately stop practicing law. You can sell your law practice and then cut back on the practice on a daily basis. So you're still working, you're still consulting with the buying lawyer, you're still interacting with people, you're still making a contribution to the profession, to society, and you move on with other things in your life, whether it be hiking in the Sierras or traveling or playing golf or whatever it may be.
Again, that was Edward Pohl of LawBiz Management and the LawBiz blog. Again, be sure to be on the lookout for his book, Life After Law. And of course, for more of his insight, check out, of course, again, LawBizBlog.com. And for insight from experts like Ed, visit the Law Firm Marketing and Management section on LXBN.com. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Colin. I appreciate it.